Well, you're seeing them more and more often. Parents, grandparents, citizens coming together to oppose the sexualization of children in schools, libraries, gender ideology being taught to them, and also opposing the medical transitioning, which often results in sterilization or mutilation of children. But what you don't see very often is those types of protests taking place outside of the surgeons who are performing such irreversible surgeries on children.
Dr. Daniel McKee is performing surgeries on kids as young as 14 years old. He specializes in top surgery, so there isn't a wait list, so he can bang these surgeries out pretty quick. The government MSP will cover them, so it's easy. It's easy for these kids to access this.
People were very afraid to get involved at first, but it is so encouraging to see so many disparate groups agreeing on this issue. You've even got Muslims and Christians working together. I mean, that's unheard of.
We trust people to be responsible with our kids all day, all week, and we are leaving these kids to the wolves right now.
There's a lot of hate towards trans rights and trans kids. There's always this type of view that you're gonna get, I don't know, there's even I don't know, this, it's just very so disrespected, even in the community sometimes there is a bit of disrespect. So I don't know, I'm here to support trans rights, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so do you know what the protest is about? Or
No, I just walked in.
Oh, okay. Drea Humphrey here with Rebel News, bringing you a report from outside of a Dr. Daniel McKee's office located along Kingsway in Burnaby, BC. You can find out more information about his practice at vancouverstopsurgery.com. Get it? Because he's removing the tops, sometimes of kids, well before their frontal cortex is developed, which of course is the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and decision making. But this isn't about that. This is about the group of 25 or 30 so protesters who have gathered out here today to say enough is enough of the medical transitioning of children. One of the things I notice is Dr. Daniel McKee's name is not written on the window above me. I would probably not have my name up there too if I was doing this to children. But I am going to bring you, of course, some words from the protesters themselves. Doesn't appear to be any counter protesters here, but I want to let you know, in case you're new to Rebel News, we have a dedicated website for this type of important coverage. It's called stopclassroomgrooming.com. There you can share report after report covering the other side of the story to issues like the sexual indoctrination of children or them being taught gender confusion. Against that, stopclassroomgrooming.com. That's also where you can chip in a few bucks to help us cover the cost to have our boots on the ground to bring you reports just like this.
Dr. Daniel McKee is performing surgeries on kids as young as 14 years old. He specializes in top surgery, so there isn't a wait list, so he can bang these surgeries out pretty quick. The government MSP will cover them, so it's easy. It's easy for these kids to access this. He's one of the main ones here in the Lower Mainland. He was taught by Dr. McLean, who's the biggest one out in Toronto.
All right, familiar face here, especially when it comes to matters of gender ideology being taught in schools. You've got a sign here that says Soji School Board resign. This is the former school trustee for Chilliwack, Barry Newfield. How are you doing? Give us an update since no longer being on the board.
Well, it started out me objecting against gender transition, but new things have added. Now they're adding these disgusting books in the school libraries. They're forcing kids to go to gay pride events. They got gay posters all over the place. It's just so much indoctrination. And along with it, of course, comes the in the same package as the critical race theory and the anti-colonialism, and it's just destroying all our tradition and history that made this country great.
Let the children be children. When they're 12, 13, they barely are children. They are not even adults. So let them grow up to be of a legal age and let them decide whether they want the transition from girl to a boy, boy to a girl. Because once they do the double mastectomy for girls, it's irreversible and is life damaging, trauma for life, and they're depending on pharmaceutical drugs forever, and it's irreversible. So let them be children. This should be stopped, and this should never be allowed because this is paid by the government of Canada.
So you were just walking by here, and then now you've got a stand in your hand, or now you've got a sign after just walking by. So what made you grab this sign and join the protest?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of like hate towards trans rights and trans kids. There's always this type of view that you're gonna get. Like, I don't know. Like, there's even like I don't know. It's just very so disrespected. Like even in the community, sometimes there is a bit of disrespect. So I don't know. I'm here to support trans rights. Really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so, do you know what the protest is about, or?
No, I just walked in.
Oh, okay. All right, this is Karen Litsky. Now, you were recently a candidate for the Conservative Party of BC in the Vancouver Mount Pleasant area. What brought you out here in front of Dr. McKee's office? Why is it important to be here today?
Well, I've heard his name frequently associated with families where the kids are really in bad psychological shape, very confused, their parents very, very upset, and he's going ahead with surgery under conditions that I think are professionally and ethically not indicated. I don't think there's never an excuse for doing something like this in a rush. It's elective surgery, and all other causes and solutions should be checked and tried and ruled out before the last drastic, irreversible option is tried. So I feel it's an important place to both draw attention to and send a message.
You know what? I think just spreading awareness is the most important because in my experience, 80% of the people we run into don't even know what's going on right now. They don't know what's going on with their kids. We trust people to be responsible with our kids all day, all week, and we are leaving these kids to the wolves right now. This is actually my maternity clinic. My midwife is amazing. She is not with this, but she is obviously stuck in this building with a lot of people who are hurting children. And I feel it's important for me to be out here as a mother to show people that, not every parent thinks this is great for children. If you've been pushed into this idea that this is helping kids in some way, let them grow up. That's my thoughts is, the prefrontal cortex of a kid's brain is not developed until well into their 20s. We make bad decisions all the way through our lives, even as adults. So why are we letting kids decide things that are altering the course of their entire life?
What would you say to people who say, my parents support this decision, and that's the parents walking them into Dr. McKee's office?
The parents have been sadly misguided. And I think they need to look at the long-term effects of this, especially a girl having her breast removed. There's a lot of detransitioners out there now who are coming forward as adults that thought this was a good idea at the time. But you got to remember the kids go through phases. Just because they like this today doesn't mean they're going to like it tomorrow or in a couple of years or even in 10 years. And that's a permanent decision. They can't get a tattoo, they can't buy alcohol, they can't buy cigarettes, they can't even buy some cough syrup. My daughter couldn't even buy an aquatic shrimp from PetSmart because she wasn't 18. However, wow. This would be easy at 14. And even if they say that the parents have to have consent for this, but the children can easily challenge that in court and they'll win every time.
People were very afraid to get involved at first, but it's so encouraging to see so many disparate groups agreeing on this issue. You've even got Muslims and Christians working together. I mean, that's unheard of. But it's all common sense, and parents have the right to raise their kids according to their own values.
Well, there you have it. You've heard from some of the protesters who came out here outside of Dr. McKee's office. I also reached out to Dr. McKee's office. I wanted to know exactly how young of age you can come here and get your breasts removed, no matter if you're with a parent or not. And I also wanted to know what they thought about people who are protesting this issue and concerned about the children who will grow up to think this is a mistake. At this time, I have not heard back from them, but if I do in a timely fashion, I will go ahead and update the written report. You can find the link to that to see if it's been updated right now in the description box below. I'm Drea Humphrey for Rebel News.